It was, excruciating mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. But this is the path of God. If I really want to be on that path, well, then you got to prove it. My name is Mubin Sheikh. I'm the Muslim James Bond.
Tell me how you became the Muslim James Bond.
Well, I had just returned from Syria in 2004. I had gone to Syria after 9/11, which really made me reconsider my extremism, being an extremist for about 5-6 years. 9/11 happened, made me rethink everything. I went to Syria, I studied Arabic and Islamic studies, stayed there for 2 years and realized, we have it real good in Canada. So I returned back, and the first week that I got back, the first Canadian had been arrested on terrorism charges. Momin Khawaja was arrested in connection with the 2004 London fertilizer bomb plot. Momin Khawaja was my childhood friend. And so that prompted me to contact the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. And they were, of course, very interested in the fact that I knew this individual, and promptly reached out to me to have a meeting with me. I told them my life story, and at the end of it, they basically put to me the prospect of working with them as an undercover operator to help them identify who is a threat and who is not a threat. And so began my time with the service.
Tell me how you first became an Army cadet when you were a kid.
I was in grade 8. I heard on the PA system the air cadets were here. I thought, air cadets? Let me find out about that. And so I attended an information session. I didn't join the air cadets, but when I got to high school in grade 9, one of my classmates was an Army cadet. And he told me, you don't want to join the air cadets, you want to join the Army cadets. And so I ended up joining the Army cadets. I was about 13, 14 years of age, and ended up spending 5 years in the Army cadets.
And when you left the Army cadets, where did you go? What happened?
Yeah, I unfortunately, leaving the Army cadets, after leaving the Army cadets, I still had a foot in my school world with my friends, and what ended up happening was when my parents were out of town, I decided to have a house party while they were gone. And unfortunately for me, in the middle of the house party, my uncle burst through the door, caught me red-handed, and basically shamed and guilt-tripped me into believing that what I had done was so wrong. I had defiled the home, I had dishonored the family and the community, and I decided in my moment of panic that the only way that I was going to salvage my reputation with the community and the family was to quote-unquote get religious. And so in the summer of '95, I would end up spending 2 months in India, 2 months in Pakistan. And while I was in Pakistan in a city called Quetta, I would have a chance encounter with the Taliban. And after meeting them, I became enamored by them. I wanted to be like them. They told me the only way for Muslims to regain their dignity in the world was through jihad. And me looking for this religious identity, looking for a sense of purpose and belonging, was ready to sign up. And so after I returned back from Pakistan in the fall of '95, the Taliban had come to power or took power, and I took that as a validation of their worldview and became an ardent supporter of the so-called global jihadi cause.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Islam there are 2 basic forms of prayer, salah and dua. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Can you tell me what the difference is?
Salah is like ritualistic prayers. There's specified times when those prayers are supposed to be done. There are prerequisites to the prayer. You're supposed to be in a ritual state of ritual ablution, clean clothes, clean place, the right time. You have to be facing Qibla, which is Mecca. So it's very strict in the way in which salah is done. Then you have what's called dua, and dua is just any prayer that you want to make. So putting your hands up and turning to God and saying, oh God, help me in this moment, that's a dua. And so that's the main difference. Dua you can do anytime, anywhere, it doesn't matter what state you're in.
When you were with the Taliban, what kind of dua were you making?
The dua that I made was, oh Allah, put me on this path that is beneficial for the ummah, which is the global Muslim body, as if it's a monolith, which it's not. But basically that was my prayers, that oh Allah, put me on this path, that path that you would be happy with, a path that is successful in this life and the next.
And when you were in Syria, after you had come to the realization that maybe you had been going down a path you didn't want to go down or that you shouldn't be going down, what kind of dua did you make then?
Yeah, I mean, after being in Syria, the war in Iraq started in 2003 while I was there, and the Syrian regime was sending people to go and fight, and I was invited to go and fight. There were air-conditioned buses that were taking people to the war zone, and people were literally calling out of the windows, asking me to come and join them, but I had a different frame of mind now. I realized that this extremism and wanton violence was pointless. And so my du'as now at that time were the opposite. It was still the same dua in that, oh Allah, put me on a path that is of success in this life and the next life. But it had a different meaning at that time.
When did you first realize that God had put you on a different path, and how did you know what that path was, that new path?
I didn't know what path I was put on until many, many years later. When I returned back, I was recruited by the service to be an undercover. And even at that time, nobody was to know who I was and what I was doing and on whose behalf I was doing it. I was the gray guy. In fact, I used to chuckle at myself because of the way that I looked, big beard, Taliban turban, long robes. And sometimes when I would go on public transit, people would make remarks, more than just under their breath, audible remarks. Like, look at this terrorist, and it would make me smile, actually, thinking that I like where I'm at, is that the guy thinks I'm a terrorist, but I'm an undercover. And we want the terrorist to think that I'm a terrorist too, and that makes my job easier. So I quietly went about my work, and even at that time I thought to myself, interesting that I've had this Army cadet experience, and I've had this religious, de-radicalization experience, and now here I am doing what I think is God's work, keeping the public safe, keeping people safe regardless of their background, because they're Canadian. And I'm a Canadian, and Canada protects me as a Muslim here. So it is my religious obligation to protect the people from those who would be doing harm. And so that was my way to be on God's path at that time.
Do you miss undercover work?
I do. I really do. I wish I could have continued doing that. And I remember when it was put to me that, if you go over to the RCMP and it becomes a public prosecution, you're never going to be able to do undercover work again. And the dilemma was, do I stick with my career aspirations and basically walk away from the case and don't continue with the prosecution, or do I do the right thing and go with the prosecution and expose myself as an undercover and never be able to work again? What do I do? And so after a lot of soul searching and thinking about it, I realized that I needed to do the right thing. I needed to follow up with the investigation, follow through with it, and continue on in that, down that road. I could not understand what was going to come as a result of that. The denial by the larger community and the communities, the hate that I got online from people blaming me for everything, and some people, you know, they had their grievances, right? They didn't like the fact that I did what I did, and you know, I was sad more than anything else. You know, I wanted the Muslim community in particular to say, yeah, there's your proof that we're against terrorism. Go and talk to him. But unfortunately, you know, I understand why, right? This was post 9/11 environment. The Muslim community felt under siege, and any exposure of wrongdoing by the community, they felt reinforced the siege. And so I became a bad guy in the minds of many people. And there's a lot of denial that unfortunately even persists to this day, right? Just some people just did not want to believe that this was the case. And I had to deal with that stuff all on my own, you know, but it was a wonderful experience. I have to admit. I mean, it was, you know, excruciating to me mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. But this is the path of God, right? As the dua states, right? If I really want to be on that path, well, then you got to prove it, and that proof only comes from conflict, from you being conflicted, feeling that weight, feeling that pain, having those sleepless nights, second guessing yourself, doubting yourself. All of that is what makes you the good guy.
Spiritually, what was the most difficult part of this work?
Spiritually, I remember I was in the mosque. We were standing for prayer. It was the afternoon prayer, and it was a mosque that I had regularly frequented. And I'm standing there and I'm asking myself, like, what am I doing? I'm in the mosque. I'm with these guys who think I'm their brother, and I'm betraying them. And in prayer, and I was overcome with this feeling of, no, Mubin. Look at what these guys are planning to do. Look at what they want to happen to Canadian citizens, to the fellow Canadians. And imagine what this will do to the Muslim community if they're successful in even a portion of their attack. Can't let that happen. Not even a question about it. So I got over any issues that I might have had very quickly while I was doing the work. Now fast forward, when the work is done and it's all now out and exposed to the public, now everybody is against me. The Muslim community in particular, questioning my faith. You're not a Muslim because of what you did. And again and again and again, repeatedly, nobody is supporting me in the community. Nobody's even saying, hey, maybe we should wait for the evidence to come out because maybe there's something more here that you may know. No, they didn't do that. They jumped right to on the conspiracy theory wagon, and now I was shut out of the community. I could not go to the mosques as I normally went. I could not go to certain Muslim activities and events and community events. My parents, they had to answer for what I had done, what their son had done. And I asked myself, oh Allah, like, is this what the Muslim community is about? I thought we were against terrorism. I thought we were supposed to stop terrorism. Isn't that what everybody is saying on camera when they get up there and the microphone is put in their face? Well, I'm doing that. But now what? Oh, no, not like that. Right? So I was torn that how could the community respond in this way? I thought to myself, what Islam am I following? That if I'm doing this and they're telling me that it's wrong, well then what's right? So again, I had to wrestle with these questions. I had to go through that angst and that question and that doubt, because through that conflict, internal conflict, things started to make sense. It seems counterintuitive, but actually it's the only way you're gonna come to that truth, because it's gotta be a raw truth. It's gotta be a truth that stands up to the criticisms of people from all different walks of life. Your community, I had people who were, academics who were questioning what I was doing. I had lawyers who wanted to relitigate the case, you know what I mean, after the fact, 20 years later in the form of a textbook. Like, people were coming after me, and they're coming out of the woodwork. I was like, why are these people, they know nothing about the case. They didn't spend one day in court, and yet here they are with the confidence of, the king himself, and so I had to go through this stuff. Without all of those things that occurred, I would not have the level of understanding and knowledge that I have today. I would just not have. So it was, in the end, not a spiritual dilemma. It was actually spiritual training that I had to go through.